Whether you're new to the hobby of photography or upgrading your equipment from a point-and-shoot camera, buying a DSLR is a great investment.
But with so many options out there, how do you choose the right one? After all, every camera has so many specs and features that it can be a little bit difficult to tell them apart.
Yes, it is overwhelming, but fret not, because in this episode we take a look at all those things you need to know to choose the right DSLR for your needs.
We also review the new kid on the block, the Canon 800D.
And we tell you about the best smartphone cameras that money can buy. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, this episode is all about cameras.
And also video games. It's also about video games.
Yeah, can't wait for that. But for now, it's all about cameras, and our top story is for anyone who's looking to buy their first DSLR camera.
But let's face it, buying a DSLR can be a daunting task, let alone buying one for the first time.
What should the budget be? What brand to choose? Wait for the next model, or just take the plunge? These are some of the very first questions that would pop into anyone's head.
And these questions aren't really that easy to answer, especially if you don't know all that much about DSLRs to begin with. But don't worry, as always, Tech It Out has you covered. We spoke to professional photographer Shailendra Singh Rana, who gave us some advice on what matters the most for first-time DSLR buyers. Take a look.
What you see is what you get. If there is no manipulation, it's just like what you can say, a mirror image which is saved in time, frozen in time, which you can go back to at any point of time and just look back and just see, Photography, for me, it's become like an only medium of communication wherein I would be able to put my thoughts clearly in front of the audience. For a first-time DSLR buyer, I would say any entry-level DSLR. Nowadays, if you see, in 25 to 35,000 rupees, you can get a very good camera, which you can use for like a production quality camera. You can use it for commercial purposes as well. You can shoot catalog images, you can shoot other kind of commercials, street, art, travel, nature, anything which you want to see. For Canon users, I would say 1200D or 1300D, which is the latest in the market. They actually give you a very good dynamic range. Carry the same aperture value from 32 to 3.5, which is there, which is and can be used with any kind of a photographic accessory, which is like external flashes, mount flash, or different sort of lenses. For Nikon users, I would say 3400D or D3400 or D3300, because the dynamic range of that particular camera is really good, even better than some of their flagship cameras, which are like 7000 or 7200. Entry-level camera for somebody who wants to take up photography, be it professionally or be it as a hobbyist. I would suggest a crop frame camera would be better for someone who wants to understand how to make frames, or what is an exposure, what is shutter speed, which basically gives you an understanding of what the camera is all about. The kit lens which you get with your camera, it's one of the best lenses which you can get, 1855. There is a reason that camera gives you, these camera manufacturers, they give you 1855 lenses. If they want, they can give you 7200, 2070 or some other lenses as well as a combo. But a kit lens, for me, would be the right kind of lens if you're just starting off and trying to understand, what photography is. Because 1855 is very good for portraits, doesn't give you any kind of a distortion. Like you can take a nice clean image with a 50mm lens, and at the same point of time you have a nice wide angle which is 18mm. You also have 35mm, which is like a sort of what I call myself, it's something like a complementary lens, because every person you click with that lens is, the picture comes out really nice. camera sensor size here is, this is the most important part of any of the camera, because if you see, end of the day your images are gonna be created by the sensor in your camera. In a layman's term, what I would say, if you have a camera which has a big sensor size, which is 35mm, it's gonna give you more brighter images, gonna give you more depth. Second, it gives you a better color format, and it's also gonna give you focal length. In digital SLR cameras, you have a pentaprism in it. When I say pentaprism, basically it's a mirror which reflects the light which is coming into the camera through the lens onto the eyepiece through which you look at the camera. It shows you what exactly the camera is going to capture. But if you look at the mirrorless cameras, what you see on the back of your camera, you might not get the same kind of image. In the mirrorless camera, it follows the same technology, with just that you don't have an pentaprism. The light directly comes in and it hits the sensor. If you're an amateur and if you're just buying this camera just to understand photography, or you're buying it for recreational purposes, I would suggest going in for a mirrorless camera. It is lightweight, it is compact, you can use it whenever you want to, and it's easy to use. But if you want to pick up photography professionally, and if you want to, or maybe you want to be a serious hobbyist, DSLR would be something which you would like to go in for. Okay, first and foremost, when you're buying any kind of camera, you need to understand that camera consists of three things, which is an aperture unit, shutter unit, and ISO unit. That's why we call it an exposure triangle. You need to have the right kind of aperture, shutter, and ISO settings to create a sharp, non-grainy image. My first 50,000 images are the worst which I had taken. So as they say that it's a 10,000 hour rule. So you should also follow the same kind of thing. Click as many pictures as you want. Life, what they say of a camera is 1 lakh clicks. So I feel that as soon as you finish that thing and move on to the next camera, it's going to just give you a level up, nothing less than that.
Now, if you guys are serious about buying your first DSLR, then this entry-level camera from Canon might be a good option.
Yeah, so that's the Canon 800D. It's priced about almost 57,000 rupees, and it's the successor to the hugely popular 750D.
But isn't that, a greater price point for someone who's looking to buy their first, very first DSLRs? Maybe a 30-40 grand price range might be more appropriate for first-time users. And also, if someone's looking for something more in a camera, then probably they should start with this one.
Yeah, so that's true, but the trend now is that a mid-range DSLR should be able to give you everything that a high-end one can, and that's basically what this camera pretty much represents. And also, if you ask me, that's not such a bad thing, because that means you get to buy a DSLR that's pretty much giving you something with great specs, but at a much reasonable price.
Right, so let's take a look at all that this new 800D has to offer, and since it's Canon, we're guessing it's got nothing but the best.
Now this is the Canon EOS 800D, and it isn't just the latest or the greatest in the Canon line, but the most significant update since 2015's 750D. This camera's biggest strength is its autofocus capability. What Canon has basically done is that they've ditched the 19-point autofocus system of the 750D, replacing it with a 45-point all-across system, which basically means it gives you far more accuracy and clarity.
Canon's new dual pixel autofocus for live view photography and video capture works very well. In our tests, the 800D had no trouble locking on subjects and keeping them in focus.
Now looks-wise, the 800D looks just like any other DSLR camera. It's got a nice chunky grip to it, but it is lighter than all the other DSLR models out there, which is great for first-time users who want to ease into the world of professional photography.
The camera is loaded with all sorts of controls and buttons, which at first can feel a bit overwhelming, but doesn't really make you ever think, what the heck does that thing do? Atop the camera, you get a classic mode dial that lets you quickly flick between different exposure modes. You'll also find direct access buttons for adjusting ISO, display and autofocus point. For truly beginner photographers, the 800D also features a totally revamped guided menu system that helps explain the various features and modes of the camera. The stylish full-color UI is really pleasant to work with.
Now, a camera can look very cool and have all the fancy features in it, but at the end of the day, it's the image quality that matters. And the 800D, well, it sure does check that box.
The colors are rich, vibrant and pop out. Overall, very pleasing to the eye. Images give a very good level of warmth and saturation without going overboard so as to look unrealistic. The battery life has also seen a big improvement and many mirrorless rivals would struggle to match the 800D's 600 shot capacity.
Now, as far as entry-level DSLRs go, the 800D is the one which we genuinely enjoyed using, but it's not perfect. The video quality is limited to 1080p, which means no 4K.
Then there's also the matter of the viewfinder, which is really small and only offers a 95% frame coverage. Furthermore, the 800D does a less than terrific job of handling noise. Images in low light came out relatively grainy and displayed poor saturation. Also, the continuous shooting speed of 6 frames per second isn't particularly exciting, especially if you consider that mirrorless rivals offer faster burst shooting. So this is one area where it's a shame that Canon hasn't been tempted to try and squeeze out even more performance from the new camera.
Now, for all these reasons, the 800D essentially remains a beginner's camera. So for all you professional photographers out there, we'd suggest save up your money and go in for the higher model of Canon 5D Mark IV. But all you people out there who can't push their budget, well, the 800D is a good camera which does everything it's supposed to do and does it quite well.
Hey, how come you don't ask me to review any gadgets anymore? I've reviewed so much tech for this show, but clearly you prefer Snake.
I don't prefer anyone. I mean, Snake was available at the time of the review and you were just not.
Did you even ask me? You know how much I like cameras, but it seems so does Snake, so that's your call. Suit yourself.
Are you jealous of Snake?
Oh, please.
I think you're jealous of Snake.
Listen, I mean, if you just want to show off a pretty anchor who doesn't know all that much about tech, then that's your call. See if I care.
Okay, I think you're overreacting, and to be fair, I already have a very pretty anchor who doesn't know all that much about tech. She's my co-anchor. Meet Sejal Pandey, everyone.
Science is so funny, I forgot to laugh.
Okay, so I tell you what, from next week, how about you review all the gadgets? How does that sound?
Thanks, but no thanks. I'm happy looking just pretty.
Okay, you know what, that's what I thought. So I think on that note, we should maybe take a break. How does that sound?
Sure, seems appropriate.
Okay, so we're going to take a very quick break on the show, but when we come back, Sejal continues to be pretty. Ish. Welcome back. You're watching our camera special here on Tech It Out.
Now, nothing really beats a great DSLR, but smartphone photography has become pretty amazing. In fact, those little cameras at the backs of our phones have reached a point where they may not be able to get any better without redesigning a phone completely.
That's right. Whether it's more pixels, powerful sensors, advanced autofocus, or anything like that, smartphones these days have it all.
So if you are a photography enthusiast looking to buy a smartphone with a really good camera, then these are the best camera smartphone options that money can buy.
If you love taking pictures, one thing you can't compromise on is the quality of your smartphone camera. But the question that often pops up is that with so many options available, which one should you actually go for? Well, scratch your head no more, because we filter the clutter for you and bring you with 4 smartphone cameras that you can make a choice from. One of the great flagships of the year, the Galaxy S8, no doubt has a great design. But as much as its design, its camera has also been widely appreciated. The 12-megapixel shooter on the Galaxy S8 captures vivid colors with sharp details. Not to forget, the focusing here is pretty fast. Even in low light conditions, the phone captures impressively bright photos, and the excellent post-processing on the phone further adds to the final results. Well, the LG G6 may not score more than the Galaxy S8 on the design front, but it definitely is slightly ahead of the new Samsung flagship in the camera department. While the S8's camera oversaturates colors a bit in some environments, the 13-megapixel dual rear camera on the G6 produces true to real-life colors. Not only this, it produces relatively warmer photos than the S8. While the S8 has a great post-processing engine, the G6 has one better. The iPhone 7 has one of the best in-class cameras on a smartphone, and therefore we couldn't rule it out from this list. While the iPhone 7's camera does an excellent job in daylight and room light environments, it doesn't fare really well in low light, especially when you pit it against the flagships of this year. In dull environments, the iPhone 7 though captures details but produces relatively darker images. But again, if you're an iOS fan, you barely have any other choice. The Huawei P9 is almost a year-old phone, but you still can't give it a miss. Simply because it's one of the very few phones out there that has a coveted Leica stamp. This 12-megapixel shooter comes with dual lenses at the back, one to take color photos and the other to capture in black and white. And the combined results are richer and sharper. Also, the laser autofocus technology enables the camera to focus on subjects within no time. Shallow depth of field and great performance in low light are some of its other highlights. Well, before you start to wonder, we must tell you that we're not including the newly introduced OnePlus 5 in this list, because we're yet to test it in different environments. But don't worry, we'll soon be out with our verdict on that too, and we will let you know if the camera on the OnePlus 5 is in line with the claims or not. Meanwhile, if you are on a lookout for a smartphone camera, you can make your pick from one of these four that we just talked about.
Well, that's it for our camera special, and we're going to take a quick break and come back with a lot more.
So the show isn't over yet. Up next, our gaming segment.
Welcome back, you're watching Tech It Out, and up next is our much awaited gaming segment on the show.
Yeah, so last week we showed you the biggest games from the E3 event, and this week we've decided to show you some more games that captured our attention from the biggest gaming expo.
Excuse me, we have decided, what we have decided? No one else gets to decide anything or say anything on this.
Well, maybe,
All you.
if you pitched in a little bit, contributed to some story ideas, you would have a little bit more say.
Excuse me, I have my own show to work on and produce. It's called Unscripted.
Oh, you mean that show that no one watches? Sorry, what was it called again? Unpopular? Oh, yeah, that's right. Snap! You just got burned.
All that and a bag of chips.
Okay, great comeback. And while she thinks of a better one, let's take a look at the top games from E3.
Very own landmarks, and over time you'll uncover
What originally seemed like an awesome concept without much meat on its bones has now been fleshed out entirely.
breath away.
A shared world co-op game where you play as a bunch of pirates exploring the open ocean, Sea of Thieves seems to be a charming and fun game that we can't wait to get our hands on.
Now, make sure your crewmates all have a part to play.
Now, Fallout 4 isn't exactly a new game, but VR support is coming soon, and it looks like it's going to be pretty exciting. Set to arrive in October, and gaming company Bethesda used E3 2017 to unveil a new trailer for the experience. Okay, so if we're being totally honest, we have no idea what this game is about, but the Artful Escape sure does look unique. If the mesmerizing and colorful trailer is anything to go by, this game will launch when it's ready. But one thing's for certain, it does give the Xbox One lineup a definite edge over PS4s.
Slaughtered like my brothers at the Black Gate. We need to build our army.
Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor was the best Lord of the Rings game in ages, and Shadow of War looks to top it.
Submit to your destiny.
The sequel is bigger and bolder and seems to expand everything that was so fun and unique about the original.
On our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creatures. To be effective in combat, a warrior must not feel for his enemy.
The new God of War trailer for the PS4 looks brilliant. So if you're looking for more Kratos and quick-time events without having to play through another PS4 remake of an older title, then this game is for you.
Our people need us alive. There's nothing else we can do.
Detroit Become Human is a PlayStation 4 exclusive that appears to put you in the shoes of a cybernetic human that is treated as a slave.
Take cover.
The game is centered around an uprising and isn't going to be your straightforward shooter.
We are superior to them, but they are our masters.
Some decent amount of deduction and puzzle-solving skills will be required to play this title.
My name is Marcus. I am one of them. This is our story.
Star Child is a new VR game set in a dark alien world of giant robots and dimly lit corridors. We were quite impressed by what we saw in the trailer, but unfortunately it didn't reveal how the game plays or how the VR will be used.
I'm going to ask you again. Do you remember?
Now, if you fancy some thrills, then this psychological horror developed by Supermassive Games is for you.
Got him!
The Inpatient, as the game is called, dumps you in Blackwood Sanitarium. You've been diagnosed with amnesia and you have to explore your virtual world to find out why you're there.
Before you came here, you understand I want what's best for you.
And naturally, you can expect things to go horribly wrong along the way. The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is coming to Nintendo Switch. Now, those are some words we never thought we would string together in the same sentence, but here we are nonetheless. Yes, gestures are going to be a bit divisive, but playing as Link in one of the greatest open worlds of any game on your new Nintendo Switch sounds pretty sweet to us. Well, that's it for this episode of Tech It Out. We really hope you enjoyed the show.
You can reach out to us on our social media platforms @WION_. Check it out is our Twitter handle. Tweet to us, tell us what you like about the show.
We'll see you same time next week. Thank you for watching.
You know what, Sahil? The next episode you should get Snick to anchor.
Oh my God, is she available? Nah,
should have to
I'm
check
joking.
with her.
You're totally irreplaceable. Okay, never. You don't have to worry about that. Stake the call.